All right, so I'm back at it again, and I just saw one of my emails that I received on Monday from HAR. HAR is the local MLS here in Houston, Houston Association of Realtors. And the headline for one of the main article was mortgage rates slam the door on prospective home buyers. And that kind of goes back to my last two videos in talking about the Houston market. So I am only talking about the Houston market specifically. If this may or may not relate to any other market in the United States, but I am only talking about Houston. But as I said in my last video, was that the median home price sold was like 328. Cheapest new construction here in Houston is about 330,000. And there's a lot of people with pre-approvals where their top end of the range was probably around 330. And they got these pre-approvals like 3-4 weeks ago or 4 to 5 weeks ago. Well, they're not going to get those rates anymore. And the worst thing about it is that they're probably not a buyer in the market anymore, just because as interest rates have increased like a whole percentage point from 3.9 to 4.9, they're just not approved anymore to buy a house. So they are not a player in this market. And I believe that the market in Houston will shrink significantly as a result of it. And I guess kind of going back, it's my warning to realtors is like, hey, if you want to survive in this industry, you may want to increase the price range or find a way. You got to do what you got to do, right? To find a way to find buyers in a higher price range in order for you to survive. If you're still stuck in the 330, your market is, if you had buyers, clients that were in the 330K price range before, so they're not a client anymore today. So that was kind of, want to really point that out, that I think my analysis on it is pretty solid. I'm not going to go out there searching for the detailed numbers. Like I said, I wish HHR would just provide those detailed numbers. Maybe it's somewhere, but I'm not here to do a full analytics on it, but just kind of on a high level, just thinking based on what the information is provided, my prediction is that the market is going to shrink overall for buyers. Now, what I really wanted to talk about was I actually recently came across this video on YouTube. And as I discussed on my last video, I'm a big YouTubing fan. Whatever comes up. And one of the videos that came up recently was a video by Ray Dalio. So if you don't know who Ray Dalio is, he's probably the biggest hedge fund manager with his company, I think called Bridgewater. I haven't read too much about him. I know he's looked upon by many people as, one of the best investors out there. Like I said, his hedge fund is like the biggest, has the most assets under management. And he released this video on YouTube 3 weeks ago, and it's called Principles for, and write this down, Principles for Dealing with the Changing World Order. You should look this video up on YouTube and really watch it. Now, as I was watching this video, some other videos came up of his, right? Again, it starts to understand what you're looking for. And he had another video, I think it was like 7 or 8 years ago, called How the Economic Machine Works by Ray Dalio also. Watch that video. So the first one was about 45 minutes. The second one was about 30. And I want to say, based on the environment that we're in at this moment, it's a really must watch. Now, what really strikes a chord with me in regards to Ray Dalio is that he actually says that his investing philosophy and how he's been able to do so well is actually based on economic factors, not on any single individual company. Now, I'm not an economist by any way, and I actually have a funny story to tell you about I think I only took one economics class in college. I think it was actually just economics, like 101, 1301. I don't know what you call it, the numerical, but the initial economics class. And I went to University of Houston, but I took this as a summer course at Houston Community College. And if you're taking these classes at HCC, Houston Community College, the GPA doesn't count, right? You're really just getting credit for it. So let's just say my effort level on this class probably wasn't the best. And the funny story that came out from this, right, was I was taking this class and there was a test that came up. and we had this exam. And let's just say I didn't know anything. I didn't know. I really, I think I barely passed with a C in the class. I was taking the exam. I could see the guy to my right. He was looking off of me to get my answers. And like I said, I was taking the exam. I didn't know anything. And knowing that he was looking at my sheet to get answers, and knowing that I didn't know anything, I just made myself, made my whole answer sheet available for him to look at. And the reaction that he had when he got his score back, it was hilarious because we were sitting next to each other again, and he looked over at me, and he's like, "What'd you get?" And I think he got like a 60, and I had like a 67. So I think we both failed. But his reaction was like, how's this possible? Anyway, so if you're trying to cheat off and copy out someone, at least make sure that the other person knows what they're doing. In this situation, I had no idea what I was doing or what I was reading or what I was talking about. So that's a little bit of background on me and my, I guess, economist philosophy knowledge. I don't know a lot, but I will tell you, when I was in graduate school, I was taking this graduate finance class, and the professor that I had, he actually, someone I really looked up to. His name was Neil Murthy, and I want to say I can't remember where he went undergrad, but he had MBA. It was a Harvard MBA, or maybe Harvard, definitely Ivy League, so definitely Ivy League. And so he was one of those guys where when he talked, you listen because there's just so much knowledge like spinning out. And this was like way, I was still in school. I was just happy. I was about to graduate. I really didn't care too much. But any times that he and I had a conversation one-on-one, and I think one time I was talking to him, and I was like, "Oh man, you must be in a good mood because the market, like the stock market, was doing so well." And then he had this long discussion with me, and his philosophy was like, he doesn't really invest in any like individual companies per se, like for that specific company, but he kind of invests in the overall market. So meaning he didn't really believe that companies did well or not well based on any individual company. Now, I'm not saying that there's not different management, or some management are better. So there's a factor, but for the most part, companies rise and fall with the overall economy, United States economy, world economy, right? So, like for example, if ExxonMobil, right, if no one's buying oil anymore, no matter how good the management team at ExxonMobil, they probably won't be doing well either. So it rises and falls with how well the price of barrel of oil is doing, and that always kind of stuck with me. Just hearing that, and then I've taken that in, and I've actually kind of expanded a little bit, and I kind of expanded the way that I thought of things was that there's, however, that is true, but there are certain situations where companies can beat the overall economy on the market, and that's if they create a new market. So, and I'll use an example, right? Tesla, right? There was a vehicle market, right? A car market, and they went in, they created an electric vehicle market. So they created a whole new market. And then to even take things back a little bit further, like for example, Henry Ford, don't quote me on this, but something that always stuck with me is that, I think he always said that, if you ask people what they wanted during the time, they would say that they wanted a faster horse. Well, he gave him a car instead, and he created a whole new market. And if you guys knew me like way back since early Amazon Prime days, I would tell people like Amazon Prime was the most life-changing thing ever. They made 2-day shipping available at I think it was like $49.99, and I encourage everyone to sign up for Amazon Prime. I thought it was the most life-changing thing, and they didn't change the market per se, but they improved it so much that it just made online shopping so much more convenient and hassle-free, even on returns, right? You could return easily, free returns. Awesome. Now, So back to Ray Dalio, right? So his main point, so this video, right? Principles for dealing with the changing world order. He actually took 500 years worth of knowledge or what he observed, and he condensed it to a 45-minute video. He actually also, I think he has a book uh, in the same name that's coming out also. So this is kind of shortened version of it. And another funny thing about me is that, if my life depended on reading and finishing a whole book, I'd be dead. Like, I don't know why I've never been a person that's been able to read a book. There's not been many books I've read in my lifetime. I've done a little bit of Audible here and there, certain books that I have finished. But Audible, for some reason, I get put to sleep quite a bit. So again, my big go-to for watching a lot of things is actually just watching YouTube videos. So now I'm not going to try to explain what Ray Dalio says in the movie, or not in the movie, in the video. I think again, write this down, is principles for dealing with the changing world order and how the economic machine works, both by Ray Dalio. Watch these videos. I've shared these two videos with a lot of people. I've encouraged everyone to watch it. And the reason why I've encouraged so many people to watch these videos is because it kind of follows to where we are today, and it kind of describes where we are today. Now, so kind of getting back why he struggled for me is like I said, I've always had this economic philosophy that, things that goes along with companies stuff, go along with the overall economy, United States or the world, right? Now, I've always had discussion with people. Again, I'm CPA, accountant, I'm conservative by nature, right? And I've always read that, heard, wherever, as I said, I don't read books, but maybe reading online that, recessions, which is really a natural occurrence, right, happens on average between 5 to 8 years. And there's a reason for that. It is, like I said, it should be a natural occurrence because a lot of times, and this is my understanding, again, I'm that C student in economy class, economics class. I don't know why I say economist. I used to actually read and subscribe to The Economist, but my economics class, C student, right, was that there needs to be a reallocation of assets and investments, right? So like, for example, not all investments work out. I mean, I think there's always this understanding that just because you put money somewhere doesn't mean that it wins or it plays out to your liking. So every 5 to 8 years, there's generally a recession because, investment reallocation needs to happen, and then money needs to be pulled from a certain investment and into something else. And that's from a government standpoint, company standpoint, technology standpoint. Everything needs to be reallocated at some point. Not everything should be working, right? Some things just don't pan out, and you need to reallocate your investments. Now, as you know, if you pay attention at all, we have not had a recession since 2008. That's a pretty long time. It's 2022, so it's been 14 years. So we doubled the time since we had what we normally, when we would have a recession, we've doubled that time now. And I've been warning people here and there, and I've even mentioned, I think in my previous videos, that like I think in 2018 we were actually kind of experiencing a slowdown. One of my other mentors, like I've had many mentors, right? Like one of the other mentors was Eddie Gann. And he would always look at inventory supply in Houston. And I think at one point we were at 3, and then it was creeping up to 3.6. And I think 6-month inventory supply is like a normal market. So it was, getting at 3.6, it was trending. So you're always looking at trends, right? So it's trending towards 4, and maybe, eventually maybe 4 or 5. And then interest rates dropped in 2018, and then it kind of gave a shot to the market again. And it just kind of got the market going again and moving again. Well, so like I said, I've always been pretty conservative. I've always told people to be careful. Like, at some point there has to be a recession. Well, yeah, I'm not an economist in any way, but if you watch the news, you kind of understand that the Federal Reserve, uh, or the government itself has been printing a lot of money. I mean, that's a pretty common statement. Let's just say, for example, and and I guess to put these things in perspective, right? I think the United States is about a 20 to 21 trillion-dollar economy. So basically, all the goods and services produced within the United States is about 2021. Now, if you follow politics at all, I think there was the American Rescue Plan that Joe Biden signed, and not talking about politics, but I think he signed like a $2.3 trillion bill. So we're like pushing 10% of normal activity worth onto the market. So there's a lot of money that's being pushed onto the market. So it kind of gives the market or the economy like another shot in the arm and kind of keeps it going. Now, if you've been paying attention, I think there's been, like I said, I watch a lot of news and stuff, and even Ray Dalio, right? So someone that kind of struck for me, someone I think is very renowned. A lot of people look up to him, probably maybe the best hedge fund manager ever. Basically, a lot of people think, including him, has things like kind of like the government's ability, or at some point we're reaching to amount of debt that really don't have that ability to kind of give the economy a shot in the arm anymore. And I believe that's where we're at, is what I'm saying. So again, I really highly encourage, before I finish, right? So the other thing was, so I've always been on the conservative side, like, hey, you got to be careful, because at some point, the music has to stop with the government just kind of pushing all this money onto the economy. And then you've always had these other people, like people who predict what's going to happen and stuff. And let's just say, I guess I've been wrong, on the wrong side most of the time right now, because I've said like, hey, be careful, it's got to end. And all these people are like, oh, it's going to continue on. Like, what are you talking about? And I don't know if they base it on anything, but if they're basing on the fact that the Fed government was continue to print money, I guess that was a good bet. But maybe that's probably going to end kind of soon. But my point was that they've made these predictions based on something the Fed has never continuously done for this long. So I guess you could say that they made that bet that the government would do that, but I guess in normal economic times, it's not something the government should be doing, or okay, should or should not be doing, has never done in the past, right? So they're making that bet on the government doing something that they've never done in the past for this long. Point is, they probably didn't know what they were talking about. Good guess. I've actually know this other guy. Let's just call him Mr. Texas Real Estate, for example. It's funny how some of these people predict stuff. They're wrong quite a bit too. And he's been wrong multiple times, but you always see him post that, oh, I've never been wrong in my forecast. And it's funny because I actually have like screenshots of him predicting wrong things. That's another story. But anyways, watch the 2 videos here. Write this down. Principles for dealing with the changing world order, and then how the economic machine works. Both by Ray Dalio. Like I said, I haven't watched too many of his other videos. I've been trying to catch up, but he's certainly a guy that can explain things in basic terms for the most common person. Even someone that doesn't know anything about economics or was terrible at economics can still understand. So again, highly encourage to watch those and just kind of prepare for the future. That's all I can say. All right, catch you guys next time.